So Jeamie TKV caused an upset against Frazer Clarke and beat him to win the vacant British heavyweight title and the first BBC boxing event in what it said 20 years, right? So, I mean, the fight was interesting, it was close, it was competitive. Frazer Clarke started the fight really well. And this was ultimately Frazer Clarke's downfall because, like I said, he started the fight really well, was really sharp, was showing why he probably is the better boxer than Jeamie TKV, but he just could not sustain it. He was blowing after the third or fourth round. And I'm like, you were an Olympian, bro. You were an Olympian and you're blowing after 3 or 4 rounds. Like, what's up with that, bro? And after that, Jeamie TKV pretty much just weathered the storm early, stayed in the fight, was always a live body, was never just submitting to Clarke's will. Even when Clarke was closing the distance and applying pressure inside, TKV would still come back with his own shots, make sure that Clarke knew that he was still there. And Clarke landed a few big shots. TKV landed some big shots. I mean, I think the commentator said it best, when you're a heavyweight, every shot hurts. And that's so true. It's so true, Whether it's a jab to the body, like that you think is probably that's one of the safest punches, I guarantee you taking a jab off the body from a heavyweight is going to bloody hurt, right? So, ultimately, the back end of the fight, TKV was just staying in the fight. He was the fresher of the two men. By the 10th, 11th round, Frazer Clarke was absolutely out on his feet. And I understand these guys are big guys. Bro, you were an Olympian, bro. You were literally an Olympian, and come the 11th round, you were absolutely finished. Granted, I will praise Frazer Clarke for staying in that fight because at the 11th round, he was like I said, he was out on his feet, and he was done. He was done for. But I praise him because at that point, it would have been very easy for TKV to try and get him out of there. I mean, whether it was TKV's lack of killer instinct or it was, Frazer Clarke's survival instinct, Frazer Clarke managed to stay to the 12th round and managed to go the distance somehow. TKV would probably be a bit annoyed that he wasn't able to get him out of there because, like I said, Clarke was there for the taking come round 11, but that's boxing for you. And Jeamie TKV wins the British heavyweight title. Now, again, man, I'm happy for TKV here because, of course, he did an interview with my friends, Boxing Bros UK. And even in a fight where, honestly, I was struggling to see paths to victory for Jeamie TKV. Especially, after those first couple of rounds, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, this is going to be a pretty easy night for Frazer, but it wasn't. TKV showed that he's got a chin, he can take a shot, and he's willing to fight and go the distance. And Frazer Clarke, he wasn't good enough. Even when he was fresh, even the first half of the fight where you would say Frazer Clarke still had a lot of energy, he was still getting hit at will. It was always really easy for TKV to find Frazer Clarke's head. And even though Frazer Clarke was doing some really good body work, TKV was clearly prepared. He was clearly well prepared and went into this fight in good condition. And so much so to when Frazer Clarke's ripping these body shots, they're not taking too much out of him. It's great. Really impressive preparation from Jeamie TKV and a really, really good win. Especially because it was a shame how he went out earlier this year against David Adelaide. Because honestly, he was outboxing David Adelaide. He could have won this belt early on. And I'm one of the few that think David Adelaide, that he should have been disqualified for that shot that he landed on Jeamie TKV, even though that wasn't the shot that put him out. That was the shot that put him out of it, if that makes sense. But yeah, man, huge win for Jeamie TKV, the new British heavyweight champion. I'm super happy for him. This opens a lot of doors. Of course, means bigger paydays, bigger fights, bigger stadiums, selling more tickets, more money in his pocket. And that's the name of the game for boxing. It's based off merit. You can go as far as you want in boxing as long as you win your fights. And Jeamie TKV won his fight against Frazer Clarke and is the new British heavyweight champion. I'd be super curious to know what you guys thought of the fight. A lot of people thought this was a boring fight. But I didn't. In my opinion, I quite liked it because I saw Frazer Clarke rip the body early, because you don't see a lot of body work like that in early rounds as well. You don't see that too often. So it was good to see that from Frazer Clarke. Good to see Jeamie TKV weather the storm and get back into it and starting to implement his own game, which is similar to Frazer Clarke's in a lot of ways, because Jeamie TKV he's a bit of an inside fighter himself, I mean, Jeamie TKV is very well-rounded in my opinion. He's very well-rounded and does a lot of things really good in terms of boxing. He's not got any huge major weaknesses in my opinion. I think he's not insane defensively, but against Frazer Clarke, Frazer Clarke, I think he got the big sort of swelling over the eye. But Frazer Clarke didn't land a ton of huge shots to Jeamie TKV's head. The body, you know, it's boxing. You know, yeah, heavyweight boxers, boxing, but the body's going to be the biggest target, right? But, you know, a really good fight, in my opinion. Not a really good fight. It was a decent fight. It's a fight that I'm probably not going to rewatch again. I'll probably rewatch the highlights, to be fair, though, because there was some hard-hitting shots there. So I probably would rewatch the highlights. But a decent fight, in my opinion. A lot of people were hating on it on social media and saying it was a boring fight, but not in my opinion. I thought it was quite a fun one, if we're being honest. But yeah, another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest in the bag. I'd be super curious to know what you guys thought of the fight, and what do you think of Jeamie TKV being the new British heavyweight champion? Let me know in the comments below.